Welcome to Oh Brother, a podcast of three brothers trying to figure it all out, with your hosts Brandon, Collin, and Aaron. On this week's show, it's all ball bearings. Hello.
Hello.
It's not January anymore.
Yeah, I know. I didn't realize that until I clicked on it. I was like, crap. Gotta redo my name. I gotta come up with something witty for February. So.
I know. Slacking here, dude.
Well, I didn't mean to. I forgot. Yeah, hello.
What's up?
What's going on?
No, not a lot. Just,
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's good. I mean,
Oh, it's good.
you're the busy boy.
It's so bad. Oh. Oh, man. Very unpleasant. So I never go into our basement, right? Like, I have no reason to go down there. It's not finished. It's just a storage area. And a couple days ago, I'm going to say about Thursday, I came home and I was like, kind of smells like something died in the walls. Just that really faint, like, I couldn't, like, as soon as I walked like another step into the house, it was gone. And I could never find it again. It's just like, really weird. I guess we had a mouse die in our house. Okay, that's going to stink, literally and figuratively while it dies, and it'll go, while it finishes decomposing, and it'll go away, and we'll just live with it, whatever. Well, then Sunday night rolls around. We had a function at church, and I was like, oh, I have a microscope that I need to give back to this lady who wanted us to look at it to show her how to use it. So I was like, I'll run down to the basement and grab it. And I flung open the door, flipped on the light, and I looked right down the steps, and I was like, there's water in my basement. What? And, like, it had rained quite a bit last week, and
that's true.
It's winter, and so the ground is frozen.
Saturated.
It's saturated.
Is the word you're looking for.
Right. It's saturated and it's mostly frozen. So I was like, well, maybe, but that's a lot of water. There's a lot of water in there. And I had the sense of mind to run up and grab my waterproof boots from upstairs before I had to wade in, because I'm like, well, this is really annoying.
Good call. Good call, man, with the save of the day right there.
Because I stepped in it, and then I was like, let me go check the drain. And as I turned, and I took one step towards the drain, and I saw some toilet paper floating, and I was like,
uh-oh.
Well, okay. And we were like literally out the door to go to this thing. And so what I did was I ran over and I checked the drain, and I was like, is the drain actively pumping more water into my house?
Yes.
Right. Cause I wanted to know, like, is it backing, flowing
backing up or
upstream, or is this everything that's just been plugged and flowing in? So it was not actively flowing like a geyser or anything in. So I was like, cool.
Okay. Good news.
Good news. Good news. Step one. And then I called 4 plumbers. Granted, it's Sunday at 5. And so nobody's there. Nobody's going to pick up. But I figured someone's got an emergency line, right? Surely.
Or if you leave a message, they will call you back,
right
sometime.
Right. So,
right?
Nope. I called 4 people, and then I texted our neighbor because I was like, well, he owns a construction company. Let's see if he knows a plumber or has their direct contact. And he was like, he's like, oh, my business partner is actually a certified professional plumber. And I was like, okay, here's the situation.
Got a bit of a problem.
Bits of an issue. And he was like, he asked, okay, is it actively flowing or is it standing? And I was like, it is standing. And he goes, okay. Don't use any more water in the house. We'll be over in the morning. And I was like, cool. And Monday morning comes around, and he ended up getting over around 10:30 or whatever, which is totally fine. He's running a whole separate business that's not plumbing related. Let's be very real about this. He's not an actual plumbing business. He's in construction remodeling. He just happens to have all of this equipment that goes along with that.
Yes.
I got one phone call back from a plumber at 11 o'clock. And they were like, hey, you left a message? And I was like, yeah, I don't need you anymore. Bye. And you know, he was like, he got the auger down there, you know, the really big ones.
Yeah,
it was
a scary looking thing.
Scary looking thing, you know, jerking all over the place as it was humming along.
Yeah.
He said it was about 30 feet out. He busted through something, figured it was probably a tree root. You know, I'm in a house that's 100 years old. There was, you know, like, who knows, whatever. And it's kind of cool. As soon as I heard it break through it because it was reverberating throughout the pipes. And I walked over and all the water was just pouring down. Like it was effectively using the drain, which is, you know, what it was supposed to be doing in the first place. And he was like, yeah, no, you've got a good, you know, your drain is fine. It was just probably something that built up over time. So do this about once a year and you'll be fine. And I was like, sweet, thank you. And then I was like, how do I clean this up? Because I had actually called.
Because I don't own any bleach. So
edit point 758. And he was like, well, because what had happened was I had freaked out and like called my insurance and was like what does this look like?
I'm literally floating away. Oh my gosh.
Floating. Well, that's what Megan said. She was like, when you left messages, were they calm? And I was like, well, I didn't have any point to freak out. And she's like, maybe freak out a little bit more next time and see if they call you back. So I called my insurance and was like, so like, am I covered? Like, what's this process look like? And he was like, yeah, you're covered. Just keep track of all of your expenses and blah, blah. And he's like, do you even want to file a claim? And I was like, well, I don't know. Like, I've never done this before. It's an unfinished basement. Most of our stuff was sitting on top of pallets anyway. And so like only one corner of a box got wet. I'm mostly worried about just sanitizing it, just being very real about this.
Yeah.
And so he sent me the contact information for a cleaning company, and they got there just as my neighbor and his partner were done. And so she came in and she did this assessment, which while she's assessing the basement, and here's the other thing. She's an assessor for a company that cleans up flooded basements, very hazardous places. Did she show up in waterproof knee-high boots? No, she showed up in pumps and just
Hey.
She knows.
Just knows. But she's not waiting around anything. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
And so I stepped outside.
Or the pumps were tall enough that she would be like, it's fine. It's just
fine,
a basement.
Right?
I can walk through a little bit of water in these, no
good.
problem.
Yeah. And so I stepped outside and talked to my neighbor, and I was like, how do I clean this? And he was like, you're going to get some, spray it with bleach, hose it down, pull a hose into the basement, hose it down, scrub it with some soap, and then, rinse and spray it again with bleach, and you'll be fine. And I was like, okay, great. And he was like, now, if you had drywall or any other stuff down there,
yeah, that's a big problem.
Yeah. And I was like, sweet. So the lady came back up and she was like, look, you don't have drywall. You don't have this other stuff. We have this sanitation package, blah, blah. Let me get you a quote real quick. And she left and came back and she was like, that'll be $1,800. And I was like, no, thank you for coming out. Have a wonderful day. And so
gallon of bleach, $4.99.
Good.
A brush,
Wait.
$3.99.
Well, and see the thing
Already got a
is-
bucket, probably.
Right. The thing is I had been wanting to clean out the basement for a long time anyway, because there was lots of like limestone dust and like
Don't
ash.
love limestone dust.
Well,
Ooh,
because
ash, hooray.
I have original limestone walls from whenever this place was built. Okay.
Beautiful.
Tasty. Okay.
And there's also there's the ash pit for the fireplace.
Oh yeah, the coal furnace. That's right.
The coal furnace.
Yeah.
Let's be real here. There's still coal in my basement. It's in the coal chute though. So, and I had just been wanting to clean this up anyway. And so I told Megan, I was like, I've been wanting to do this for a while. This is the impetus to get it done. And so I had to run a hose through our kitchen window to shorten it so that I had enough length to get down in there. And I just
Beautiful.
It was great, especially on a day that was it's 30 degrees.
It's been so hot and cleany this last week.
Yeah, meaning to open up a window. So I sprayed the whole thing down. I had a little pump sprayer and I sprayed it all down with bleach, let it sit. And then I went and I started hosing everything. After I had to move up all the pallets and get all our stuff out of there, I just started in a corner, right? And then just started spraying. And when I say there was probably 60 pounds worth of dust and limestone and concrete dust and chunks that I got up off of the floor. I am not joking. The bag.
Well, now the drain's clogged again. That's what's wrong.
Is I really tried to make sure I wasn't blowing it all down the drain. I had a shovel that I was scooping stuff and I was trying to keep it from going down there, because I didn't want all of a sudden to just lock up my drain with
do it again.
Dust, right? And then have them to come and go, well, you have to dynamite that out because it's a rock now.
It's solidified now.
Yeah, they're like, why did you get that wet? It's going to turn into stone. And
yeah, there you go. Accidentally made Roman concrete with all the detritus in his basement.
Right. Why is there coal dust in here? And anyway, move on.
Everything's fine. It's fine.
So I did. I just started.
I was a really bad boy this year for Christmas.
It all goes in the basement. And so I just started in a corner and I got my hose down there and I just kind of started going methodically, pushing the water. And you could see this line of the crud that was on the floor. Again, not crud that came up from the drain. This is stuff that I knew was already on the floor pre-flood.
Yeah.
So I'd have to spray and scoop and spray and scoop and spray and scoop. And oh my gosh, it took forever. But man, that floor is awesome looking now.
Nice.
I still have the coal in the chute and I still have ash in the bottom of the fireplace down there.
Well, that's just that's character. That's fine.
It's all beyond.
This, yeah.
Well, and it was I told Megan, I was I'm motivated now to tackle those, but I know those are going to be a way bigger job to do.
My motivation's quickly fading.
It's quickly fading. Plus, I know the more I work on those, the dirtier the rest of the floor gets, and it's so clean.
That you just cleaned.
It's so clean. I don't really want to mess with it. So we'll see. But if either of you want to come help me move a washing machine from my basement in the coal bin, you are more than welcome to come up.
Oh man, let me tell you.
What day were you thinking about doing?
Yeah, I got it's gonna be real cold next week, so I
have some
can't.
coal to light on
next
fire.
Tuesday. Next Tuesday. I'm gonna visit that day. It's so crazy. Wow.
Okay.
Oh, Collin. Oh man, I'm just dying in here. Sorry.
I know listeners to this segment may be going, "You don't actually have coal in your basement. That's a bit much." No, I actually have coal in my basement still. It's the little briquettes that are scattered across the floor in the coal bin that sit there, and they're all black and smiling back. So It kind of reminds me of
That's what happens in a central Missouri railroad town, right?
Yeah.
It's just
They're just coal lines.
He was around.
Just have to
Stumble across. It kind of reminds me of opening the door and seeing all the soot sprites, and whether they'll like scatter away.
Collin's basement is just spirited away, right? That's really what happened. It's just that's everything. There was the muck monster, right? The water spirit was dirty. Had to get cleaned up. Had to get little soot sprites all over the place. Look at that.
I don't.
Collin's living in a Ghibli movie. Who knew?
I am. I don't know who's the operator of the baths and sending all of the stuff up, but
yeah, it's true. Some sort of mystery. So I'm assuming that somewhere, back to the cause, the root of the matter, if you will. Is there just some sort of Y junction between that floor drain and the sewer output that the rest of the pipe drains into somewhere, and it just had backed up from that? Is that where it came from?
Yeah. So what basically the floor drain, you're right, Y's into the main water drain for the rest of the house. Okay. And they meet underneath my basement floor. And
somewhere.
Then they join and they move out underneath my backyard into the alley, which
towards the sewer line,
which goes into the main sewer line. And so somewhere between the Y junction and the alley, about 30 feet out, which I have a small yard, so pretty ways out there.
Like close to the alley, probably
close to the alley. There was a blockage, and so as we had been flushing,
it just backed all the way up.
I had a block all the way. And see, the problem is during this time, before I had discovered it, I had basically had a migraine for 3 days, and something that helps me cope with migraines are taking blazingly hot, long showers. And so
Collin defaulted
like twice a day, I would basically just stand in the shower and have the little like massage thing blasting at the back of my head to try and to calm it down. Then I could get out, and the coolness would help alleviate some of the pain and whatever. And so it was like all of that water was just going down into the pipe.
It was that abnormal water usage.
Right. Is
over the short time span is what contributed. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And who knows?
That makes sense.
Well, also, and who knows what else, again, with the rain and the water seeping into the pipe.
And like one last thing might have got caught, one last piece of toilet paper got caught on the root, and it just completely, sopped it up or whatever. So
So it was kind of like all these things converged. Again, in the grand scheme of things, of the problems that it could have been, like as soon as I saw water and what was coming up, I was like, great.
Pipe exploded. Yeah, that's the first thought, right?
Exploded or collapsed, and they're going to have to dig in my basement, and it's going to be like $20,000 to replace that sewer line, and blah blah blah. Like I really flew off of this panic. So, in the grand scheme of things, $150 for my neighbor to come out, plus some elbow grease, bleach, and a new hose, like in 2 days. Like it really. Not that bad.
That's true.
Because again, it wasn't finished. The basement's unfinished, and everything was on pallets already. So that was huge. I can't imagine.
Oh yeah, that's a really good deal. That was already elevated off the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been real bad. Probably after not.
It would be for bad. So yeah, that was fun. Yeah, that's all I have. That was all that report. It was nice.
I mean, that's quite a lot.
I will say, once I overcame the
shock, terror,
right, and just like the horror of what was going on, right, and I was able to process that, and I told Megan, I was like, basically, I had to just latch my brain onto. This is $20,000. And that was what I had to do in order to just that's the worst thing. And I have to keep moving forward. Because if I tried to stair step my way up to it, I would have just been I would have been paralyzed because of anxiety. So it was just like swallow the $20,000 pill and move forward. Once I was able to do that, and then I could start cleaning, like I overcame that hump, and then I was able to kind of like let my OCD guys kind of like manifest me for a little minute. And it was actually therapeutic. Like down there with the hose, shushing the water and scrubbing and shushing and scrubbing. Like at that point, it's actually like, okay, I'm progressing. I'm making something happen and solving this.
That was the most like, that statement put you closer to our Father than anything that you've said in the past, and it's really terrifying that you just uttered those words. Like cleaning up the giant mess was therapeutic and comforting to me. Like, what? What the heck? That is exactly something that he would say, and it's a little worrying. But I find it just an odd coping mechanism to like just immediately attach yourself to absolute worst case scenario and be like, yep, that's it. That's what it's going to be. And then
this is my life now.
Well, yeah, because I knew that like that was the worst possible thing I could imagine happening. Right. And like, there's all sorts of stuff of like, okay, they're going to do that. We're not going to be able to live in the house while they're doing that. We're not going to be able to run our business. We're going to have to live out of a hotel. Like, I just went there. I immediately went there and was like, and I had to sit with that for many hours and just go like that. Right. This was not an immediate thing. Like, don't get me wrong. Like this had to.
All right. You made it sound much more immediate. It's like, that's a weird.
Just ask Megan. I was very quiet for a long time. And so like once I was able to finally to process that, I was like, that is the worst possible outcome for all of this. Everything else that didn't take one step in that direction was amazing, right? Like, and as the steps took me further in the opposite direction, it was like
from that, it was better.
From that, yeah, it was all joy, right? And so by the time I was the one cleaning because I didn't even know how to clean and what that process looked like. So having somebody say, do these steps and me going,
yeah,
I can
just get the
that.
bleach, man.
Right. I can do that. And
just a drop of Dawn and grease is gone. That's what you got to do. Just throw some
grease and other stuff. It was like, okay, I can manage that. Like each step beyond that just became more manageable for me. So by the time I was down there with my hose, listening to podcasts in my AirPods and blasting away, it was like, this is the easy part for me at this point because I like cleaning.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Right? I can I'm not living in a hotel.
That mental hurdle is a problem.
Yes,
I'm that's fair. Well, that makes sense, I guess. It's a weird, like, I don't know. For me, because that's not how I deal with problems. I just go, well, I guess we're just gonna have to figure out what to do first and then go from there. But it's similar to where you're like, when you have like a large thing to do, it is very overwhelming, and you're kind of like, well, there's literally nothing to be done. I give up. Like,
well, and that's kind of.
But I'm kind of the opposite way. I start with the small step. I'm like, well, I'll do this one thing first, and then we'll go from there and see what happens. Like,
yeah. And like, right. I'm sure I do that in some cases, but when this was just such a shock because.
Well, that's true.
Like. I since owning this home, I have become so paranoid to sounds of water and unexpected water because I just know that's like
oh yeah, because you had the shower thing before.
I had the shower
and
thing. I had this like
I forgot about the shower thing.
And like all of the stories of there being secret leaks in homes and then owners like get sick and they pull down a wall and it's covered in black mold and all this stuff. It's like. I know how terrible water is in homes, and so anytime there's just a little, and so to open that and to see like 1,000 gallons, like literal inches of water in my basement was just like
It's true. Collin watches the movie The Ring, and it's not the little girl that terrifies him; it's the dripping water from the TV. That's the one. He's like, no,
who's going to clean that up? Are you kidding me? Think of the mold.
Is that little like?
Those are my nightmares. Right? Little, just tiny drips
leaky
of water.
faucets.
Eons.
Side note, I will say it is possible to just live your life fully with massive amounts of construction going on. A few years ago, probably, I don't know, it's been a long time ago now, our school like renovated, like they did like a huge renovation. Like they expanded the commons area, they changed the library, and they added this new front door entrance thing. Because the old front entrance was like some really janky stairs that were falling apart and like a door that didn't close right, you know? So,
yeah, sure.
So they did a whole new front entryway to be like, ooh, it's all fancy, right? It's fine. It's not totally ugly. Anyway, but they started doing it while school was still in session because there was so much to do. And they were saving the rip out the big giant interior walls for mostly over the summer. But they started that kind of at the end. But while they were tearing out the front part, they had the math class that I was working in when I was an aide was right at the front of the building. And they had the jackhammer affixed to the backhoe, just like hammering away on the stairs. Like, right while we're trying to have class in there, we're doing math work. And there's just this constant, like, so like the room was shaking because it was like punching the foundation like right outside. Jeez.
No.
It was so terrible.
That's awful. No.
Yeah, it was. It was so bad.
Yes.
It was just like bone jarringly loud. It's like,
oh,
you know, that like just,
yeah.
But it was like your chest was shaking. It was so loud.
Jeez. Well, I guess, you know, the proximity to you too doesn't help.
Yeah, it was like feet away. That was like. And our genius superintendent at the time didn't see any problems with this plan whatsoever. It was totally fine. Yeah. So it's okay. You can totally learn effectively in a room that's deafeningly loud and shaking.
Oh, no. Answer no.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, I just thinking about even trying to, you said like living with that be a little different whenever they're like, we're working on your water main, or, you know, like, so like you can't flush, you can't use the sink, you can't use wash clothing, right? It's like, that's where I was like, oh.
That's the part they saved at school till almost the end of the year because they did that. They added a new bathrooms and they added a new thing over there. So they could like shut everything down for a while. There was like plastic in the hallways because they ripped out a huge part of the wall and they were like rebuilding it.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it was pretty cool.
Doesn't sound like it. You keep saying that.
It was a plan. No. He's the same guy that designed okayed the design of our shelter / performing art. And he's that guy, the man that's never set foot in a performing arts center clearly by the design of this thing. Anyway, I had to go in there last week for our choir concert for 6th grade, and every time I go in there, I'm like, oh,
did you weep?
I do. I wince when I look at it. I'm like,
sorry.
It could have been so good, and yet here we are.
Yeah, that's the really sad part about that is that it was a great opportunity.
Yeah,
that
we just
completely
didn't make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad. It hurts me. Especially because I've been in other schools that it did the same thing, and theirs is like good. You know?
Yeah.
Right. Like you knew what the possibilities were. Like we could have.
And I've seen the other possible outcomes, and now ours is just doomed for terrible mediocrity. Like, dang it.
Right, and especially because there's no way to go in and rehab that or like to make it better.
Yeah, you have to do some serious stuff to make it better.
Right, because it was meant to be a storm shelter, so it's kind of structurally.
Well, it's just that. Well, the exterior is immovable, and the interior, you had one chance to do it properly.
Yeah,
and you didn't do it. Yeah. There are some auxiliary things that you could address in the future, but then again, you have to take the time and find money to do it when you had a shot to do it initially with the whole thing, right?
Right. Well, fixing those kind of things is always more expensive than building it right the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And so when you have a problem like the sound design is so bad you can't hear anything in there. Whoops. Yeah. That was kind of the whole point of the building, and yeah, really messed up now.
Yeah. That's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, so it hurts me every time I go in there. But, the concert was good. Kids did good.
Oh, yeah, what was it?
It was just like the winter choral thing for the 6th grade. And she did it really bizarre this year. Like, she split it up. Normally, it's a 4 through 6 program.
Uh-huh.
Right? So she does 4-6 in the winter. And then in the spring, she does the K3 because they need more time, especially the K1 group. They're not ready to do singing at Christmas time.
Oh, yeah.
But this year, because of audience restrictions and, safety things, she decided to split it up into 2 groups. But she split it up. She did 3-5 and 4-6, which was a plan that you could do, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. I have no idea why she did that. Yeah, no clue whatsoever why that was her plan. The only thing I can think of is that 3rd and 4th grade parents are the majority of the ones that show up.
Oh.
So she was trying to split it up so that there would actually be people at them.
Sure. Well, yeah.
Because none of it is mandatory, I guess.
Oh.
So out of all this, out of all the 6th grade, some of them show up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so usually the big drop off is in 5th and 6th grade of kids that don't come. So I'm imagining that she was trying to balance out let's have some students actually here to sing our song. So
yeah.
that's the only reason I can think of why she do that, because having 4th and 6th graders on the stage at the same time is really weird.
Yeah.
And as a person that's not around 4th graders ever anymore, seeing them standing up there next to the 6th graders was like, who are those small baby children? What's happening? It's a weird disparity between the 2 groups of kids, because I see the 5th graders all the time, right? Because our classrooms are right next to each other.
Yeah.
The 4th graders are on the other side of the building, and I never see them ever. So the 5th graders and the 6th graders, they're pretty close. The 5th graders this year, they're very immature, so they seem younger to me, I guess. But when I saw the 4th graders, I was what the heck?
Right.
It's a very jarring, strange experience. Whoa, I forgot that you're small and
yeah,
small.
That's awesome.
It was weird. I just had that moment of whoa, all right.
What are you doing here?
Yeah. What's a small child doing here? Oh, yeah. You're a 4th grader. Okay, got it.
Didn't know they made them this small.
Yeah. Yeah, weirdly, the only people I ever see in the hallway are the 5th graders, some of the other middle schoolers, and then kindergartners. Because they're always, every time I go anywhere, they're lined up, doing their arms crossed, holding the bubble while they're in the hallway. Right.
Sure.
I only see them. So I'm aware that they are very small. But the 4th graders is whoa. Wait.
Not so much.
So yeah, that's the excitement of my week. I went to the concert. I was yay, it's over now. Okay, let's go. They did really good though. They'd done good. It was really hard though, because I told you that they did the practice schedule thing, right? Did I tell you about that?
Yes. And it kind of impacted when or how they could go. Right.
Yeah. So we did I had to come up with all these exciting, like, I volunteer to keep the band kids in my classroom so that they don't have to just sit quietly in the stands for 2 hours, because it's impossible for a sixth grader to do that.
Oh, yeah.
It's near impossible for me to do that, so I can only imagine how the impossibility of a sixth grader.
Yeah.
So we did some cool STEM kind of building stuff, like, designing, engineering things. I like those kind of things, and I don't always have time to do that normally, so it's like, yeah, we're doing it now.
We're doing this.
We're fun. They like to do the hands-on building random stuff is fun, right? And that's the problem I have with like STEM education in general at the sixth grade level. It's very hard to find like stuff that's kind of appropriate, right? So like, for listeners who are not versed in the weird education acronyms, STEM stands for science, engineering, technology, and math, right? And it's kind of like a design, building, hands-on experience. Every once in a while, people add A in there to make it STEAM. That stands for art. You'll hear those. You'll hear those interchangeably if you do stuff. But like, my favorite part is like the engineering science part, right? So a lot of the stuff that when you get 7,000 emails that are like, oh, learn about these new STEM projects, they're really just demonstrations where kids follow directions and make a thing, which is boring and not cool. Right? I mean, for sixth grade, it's not cool.
No. Right?
That's like exactly what you want to do for science for like second, third, fourth grade. That is perfect. That's what you need, right? Sixth grade, we need to be more like, solve this problem, right? Yeah. How do you do this thing with this stuff? You mean that's where it's interesting, and that's what makes them expand more on the engineering and thought design stuff. So it's hard to find like good questions that you can solve, right, with just random stuff. It's kind of hard to find projects like that. So we did the old classic, build a boat out of tinfoil and see how many pennies it'll hold. Mm-hmm. The classic. And then we did I gave him a tissue, like a Kleenex, and then a whole bunch of other really random classroom supplies, like some paper, a cup, some pipe cleaner, right? And I was like, I'm going to dump water in this bucket, and this tissue cannot get wet. You have to protect it. So they had to build this like some sort of contraption to keep the tissue dry as I dumped 250 mils of water on top of it.
I love it.
It was great. It was so good.
What kind of things did they come up with for that?
Right. So first, let me see if I can actually get the supply list. There was paper, a pencil, pipe cleaner, cotton balls, rubber bands, a paper cup. That might be it.
Okay.
A playing card. Yeah, because I found in my drawer that I have a stack of like 6,000 playing cards, and I have no idea where they came from. So I was like, here, use these. So a lot of them they went with encasing it in layers of stuff. Right. So I had one team that did a really cool thing where because I told them I'm going to put it in this pan or this like plastic bucket because I'm not dumping the water on my floor, clearly. So they kind of braced the pencil in an X pattern to elevate it up off the floor. And then they used the cup to act as an umbrella, and they folded the paper around it to just shed the water off the top, and then they tucked up the stuff inside.
Yeah.
That was really cool. And then There was another one that used the pencil as a horizontal crossbar to make like a tent top beam almost, and then they sort of wrapped it. They rolled it up in the paper to kind of create like a brace and then that would roll the water off the top that way. And then they kind of put something under it. I don't remember what they put under it to absorb the water, but to kind of keep it off the bottom. So it was kind of suspended. It was basically suspended in between all this stuff.
Sure.
That was cool. The coolest one though was these girls took the little tiny paper cup, like those little ones you like, the Swish cups almost, right? Sorry to bring up that memory, but those little ones. And they turned it upside down and they put the tissue in it, and then they put the cotton balls under it to help absorb any extra water. And then they cut the playing card to fit exactly under it to kind of just sit up in there and hold it. And then they then they sort of wrapped the piece of paper over top of that in this like cone shape to make the umbrella kind of thing to sit in there.
Yeah.
And they used the pipe cleaners and the rubber bands to kind of act as like stilts to hold it. Yo, it was good.
Really exciting.
It's like, dang, you guys are on it. Holy cow, that was great.
So what kind of prep work, or how do you guide them through that process? Like, what have they done immediately before jumping into that kind of project?
Well, we talked just about, this one, because it wasn't necessarily for class, it was just for like extra fun time.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. We didn't do there is a design phase that you have to do. So I gave him about 10 minutes I laid all the materials out. I'm like, here's what you're going to get. Right. Now you need to make a plan. Right. What is your plan going to be?
Yeah.
So design this thing first. And then kind of make sure you have some kind of plan, and then go into the building part. And we do talk about, anytime we've done this, we've talked about the importance of, you make your plan, and then you might get about halfway through and realize that your plan has a serious flaw that you didn't notice before. Right. Mm-hmm. And the important engineering part about this whole system is, okay, now what? Right. How do you negotiate that discovery? Right. Yeah. You've discovered that there's a problem. What are you going to do to fix it? Mm. Don't be afraid to change the plan. That's kind of the thing that I push real hard. It's like, don't be afraid to be like, oh, snap, that's not going to work. Let me switch this up. That's what I lean on pretty big. So normally, yeah, there is a design phase. If it's for class, like when we do the building things for class, we do like kind of research into whatever subject we're talking about. So we're talking about like structural integrity. We talk about like building techniques, or we're going to do one later that's going to involve, usually in our celebration thing, I can usually get away with doing an egg drop at the window. So we talk kind of about gravity and impact and how, like resistance, like how to lessen that impact, some theories about how it should work.
Yeah.
We talk about like how car crashes work, like you have to design it to break.
Yeah.
Really. You need it. It can't be too firm. So we kind of throw some design principles at them a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then give them that planning stage and let them go for it. See what happens. That's what. But you do need that prep time, because you can't just like jump in and start winging it, right? Because then you find that problem like you were talking about. You get kind of overwhelmed. You don't really know what to do first. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I don't know where to start. Oh no, what do I do? So you do need that kind of design time. And it helps if you have a team. So it's kind of like a teamwork / design thing that's helpful to learn how to communicate with other people.
I love it.
So yeah, it's fun. But finding appropriate questions is hard. Because, like I said, most of them are like, mix these things together. Like, well, I want to tell them what to do. That's boring.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly scouring for like ideas to be like building challenge things to figure out what to do. So I don't know. It can be difficult, especially when they sneak up on you, like, "Oh, I need one for tomorrow." Take it. Yeah, that was it. That was my week, really.
Great. I still love it.
Aaron, what have you been doing?
Yeah.
Well, I can't really follow suit with Collin that much. Because,
I mean, that's good.
I'm glad. Let's be very real here.
So am I.
Yeah, Colin's talking about how much money he had, or the potential money he had to drop, and I just spent like the good morning getting the car fixed. The ball bearing was out, so I had to drop about 280 on that.
It's all ball bearings nowadays.
Yeah, so that was fun.
Name that movie, listeners. You're welcome.
And so, yeah, I spent a good chunk of my morning just getting caught up with that. What else did I do? Work's kind. And I'm not going to jinx anything with work, so I'm not going to bother
Fair.
with that.
There is work. Yes. Next.
Yeah.
It's real.
I've spent a good chunk of my time. You remember that one week we talked about like ASMRs and like following.
Yes, and how Collin, how Aaron and I like it, and Collin does not. That's what we learned.
So there's a few things that I have been enjoying, but it's not like the typical like someone tapping on a microphone kind of thing. It's there's a few videos that I found that I've just been kind of fascinated with, and one of them is like I don't know like what to classify it as because it doesn't really have like a genre per se, but it's like the people who make very like the people that work at very fancy bars and they make like the really fancy like bartending drinks, but they have like all like the really cool setups and like there's no music or anything, or it's just them like putting the ice in a glass and then having them like do the shaker and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, it's like the unintentional ASMR stuff where it's like just random, like people just actually doing stuff, but then just those noises and isolation. That's the word. Are like relaxing. Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, so I've been watching a lot of those, and then there's another. Oh, and watching people build fish tanks.
Yeah.
So
yeah, okay. Please.
It's not like the.
And do you have a fish tank now?
Did you send me that, Aaron? Did you send me that?
Did I? I think that's something I might have sent you. That sounds like something I would do.
It does.
But there's like a few channels that I've watched, mostly off of like what's it called? Facebook, of people like building here's a DIY fish tank you can build. So I've watched some of those, and those are pretty fascinating. And then I've watched the people build like epic, like really high expensive ones. And then I watched people make like their whole life is dedicated around like fish and like building fish tanks and allowing or selling intricate fish kind of stuff. And so they make these extraordinary fish tanks like in their houses. Yeah. And so watching people like do stuff like that has been really fascinating. But I've just been intrigued with people that are like, oh, here's how you can make a certain kind. Here's how you make like a volcano fish tank, where they have like a little mister, and you build like a little volcano and fill it with water and all this stuff. I'm like, oh, this is perfect for your fish. I'm like, oh.
Is there a crossover in here somewhere? Is there one that's like fish tank sounds? So it's like ASMR fish tank.
I haven't.
That would be sick.
Like that would be really cool. And but yeah, like little things like that, I've just been fascinated with, and I've watched things like kind of off and on throughout the week, or like the past few weeks of like I'll be working, and then I'll just like get on Facebook for a little bit, and I'm like, oh, well, okay, oh, if I if I'm here, I'll go ahead and click on it, and then I'm like, oh, what's this? And then it rabbit hole later.
It's true. Have you ever watched any of those? The ones that are like the natural fish tanks. They're like little
aquascapes,
aquatic terrarium type situation things or whatever. I don't really know.
Okay,
they're like they have like the algae and like the stuff on top, and they put like fruit in there, and it kind of feeds the plants. And then there's like little.
Yeah.
Then there's fish in there. Those are so cool.
So that's what I watched.
I have been
this week.
No,
it's fine. I actually stumbled across that because I'm in some fish community groups on Facebook, and there's a guy in there that competes with those. And so his was
what?
Yeah. So he actually got like first place, and he took all of his
whoa.
Yeah, in one of the categories, if all of it was just based off this little creek that ran beside his house. And so he went and he collected elements from that creek and recreated it like it was a cut view of the stream. So you were like, if you were snorkeling and looking upstream, that's what you would see. And there were like these roots coming in from the side, and you could see the stream channel around the middle. And then he stocked it with like native fish from the area. It was amazing. And then I went down the rabbit hole looking at those guys, and they went to apparently the guy who's like the world champion of Aquascapes died several years ago, but his home is in Japan, and he has this massive, like 14-foot long, 9-foot tall, and 6-foot deep aquarium that he built. That's like apparently the best, and it has. And so I dove deep into them talking about all of the principles of what it means to make a good aquascape and how you find the balance and layers and all of this stuff. And yeah, I could have been a lot more productive, but it was fun.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah. Anyway. Then I was looking at, our little fish tank, and I was like, no.
What can I add to this? Yes.
Megan would be no happy.
It's fine. It's a zen, relaxing hobby, right?
Exactly, because like that, there's one that's like how to build like a relaxing fish tank. Like, well, I don't want to.
Like, I want to fish tank.
I would, want to build. So it was just a neat little, rabbit hole to kind of get myself stuck in, and because I saw the extremes of people making them of like, oh yeah, here's a little cheapo, little easy one that you can make, and have your fish be happy, and I was like, oh well, that's actually good for fish, and then people are like, oh yeah, I spent like $20,000 just on like this fish tank. Like, oh, I did that. It's not bad. Right? So it could have been a lot worse. So I'm glad I caught myself when I did. But it was just those have kind of occupied my time from work. If I've just put something on the background and kind of let have at it, just to occupy any kind of mental space, any craziness that I've been going through this week.
Sure, fair.
But yeah, no, that's been kind of my stuff. Or like if I actually have any major accomplishments. Work, absolutely insane. Yeah. No, I think that's really about it for me. Work wise, or just throughout my progression of the week, how crazy it's been.
Yeah,
fair.
Yeah.
You made
so
it another week.
Here's the follow-up question.
Okay, go ahead.
Aaron. I have a question I've been meaning to ask Aaron.
Hello.
Okay, I'll just step aside. Don't worry. I'll just.
No, you. I want you to. This just applies to him uniquely currently. Are you going to apply for the Bigfoot hunting license in Oklahoma?
So.
Yeah, no, I am actually going to step out on this one. Never mind.
Did you read this? Did you read this thing?
Yes. So,
Aaron, as the native, please explain yourself.
So I didn't fully read the article, but I figured something like this. So I can pretty much it's one of those things where I can do a book report on it without having to in Oklahoma, weirdly, and I don't know if it's the legend of was it the boggy swamp monster down in
whatever
Arkansas. But in certain parts of Oklahoma, there is a strange fascination with Bigfoot. If you go to south,
it's like Eastern Oklahoma, right?
Southeastern, the timber industry is hopping down there in southeastern Oklahoma, which is something that most people don't really think about in Oklahoma being actually a part of a timber industry.
I mean, it's their own fault. Their state song says "Where the wind blows swiftly down the plains." So they kind of put that in your mind.
Yeah, it's
just bad branding.
Point driven, but
it really is.
But that's something that in parts of like I said, in parts of Oklahoma, that it is popularized, and it's kind of, what is it called? The cryptozoology.
Yes.
Kind of vibe. Like that's actually weirdly popular here in Oklahoma. Like we have, I can't remember what lake it is, but there's like the Oklahoma octopus. That's a thing that we have. And so
do you?
It's a strange thing that people just like are fascinated with. Weirdly, out of all the things to be fascinated with in Oklahoma, that's the one. And so when people talk about it, it's imagine the mythos and the hunting culture that is Oklahoma. I mean, it was a bound to happen anyway, so I wasn't too surprised. Kind of what we talked about that one time, that elk hunting is actually very popular. There's a certain kind of I almost call it springbok. That's not what it is.
That's a very different thing.
There is some certain kind of like
antelope. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something. There's a species of that here in Oklahoma. I forgot what it's called.
Is that the western part where it's all like hilly and weirdly sandy?
Yeah. There's something. There's that kind of thing here. And so I think putting people together, it might be one of those things of just like, hey, how can we draw more money from the wildlife conservation area and Bigfoot hunting. So,
well, that's what I read. So I'm not gonna lie, I read that and I literally did that like Scooby Doo, like double take thing. Mm-hmm. I was like, wait, what? Like, but that's what he got. That's what it was alluding to. The representative guy, whoever in the state legislature that introduced it, that's what he was talking about. It was like, it's a way to get tourism draw to Eastern Oklahoma. Right. That was his goal. That's the whole point. Like, people like it. It's a thing. It's like a cultural thing. They want revenue from tourism plus the revenue from the like license lottery thing for the Bigfoot, which is odd because like you said, elk hunting's popular. If there are antelope in Oklahoma, those are real animals that actually exist.
Those, maybe.
And I think I was just taken aback by a person suggesting to have a hunting season for an animal that does he know? Like, I understand.
Oh no.
Well, so
he doesn't know.
The first thing, if you want like a good, that Oklahoma has been very good to me. It's given me a degree after it took 20 years. It's giving me shelby. It's giving me
the opportunity to hunt Bigfoot.
And so virtual list. So if you want a like, let's see if I can find it first. There's a Twitter thing that I follow, and it's called like Governor Stinn's tweets or Googles, and it's just it's a parody account of all the weird, dumb things that our governor has talked about, and it's just him Googling like, how do you Google blah blah blah, And so if you want to make a good representation of some of the mindset that takes place in this state, like that's pretty much a good thing. Because even though it is a parody count, it's like, well, I can kind of see that being true. In like everywhere we went down to in southeastern Oklahoma, Broken Bow, for instance, and then there's a bunch of those little like towns down that way, and it is kind of a neat little, kind of in my area, my neck of the woods, of kind of seeing the difference between like an old oil boom town compared to an old like timber boom town, and it's like they don't seem like they're different, but it's the culture and the atmosphere is just different. So little places down by Broken Bow, there's a cool little campsite area that it like almost every store that you go into for some sort of like souvenir shop, there is going to be a some item of Bigfoot there. Like it's just going to happen. And so it's like every like little truck sign or every little or truck stop, I should say. There's restaurants that have like no like connection to Bigfoot. Like it's just like there's a place called like the Tea Shop or something, and it's like there's a mascot that is Bigfoot, and but it's just like, and there's a place down in Tulsa called Turkey Mountain, and about like once a month or something like this. It's been a while since I've read up on them, but there's a guy that just dresses up as a Bigfoot outfit and then just like walks Turkey Mountain. It's a nice little like hiking trail that people can go like work out on and do kind of all this stuff. And yeah, there's just some guy that goes out, and there's like some Twitter page of like, oh, Bigfoot sighted at in Turkey Mountain. And people like take pictures of it, and it's supposed to be like bringing more people in. And
his job is about to get a whole lot harder if these permits go out.
Yeah, so I think that's only again, that's only quote unquote restricted to certain areas, but it's just one of those things of like, I mean, like it makes sense, but like it kind of does, but it kind of doesn't. But I mean, if you can make it work, I mean, go for it. I mean, all power to you, man. I guess like I saw it on Twitter, and then you sent it to me. I'm like, yeah, that's where I live. That's me.
I think that I don't know. I just think the whole Bigfoot thing is like it's fascinating to me, just on many different levels, about like the different lengths that people go to and the different theories that are ascribed to this thing and all the possibilities that everyone has latched onto what it is. And I just find it so interesting to hear all the different takes on it. And it's just like, what are you talking about? Because yeah, it's weird. Like, I don't know. Like,
oh yeah, I just from your thought, it was just.
Oh, that's right. I was waiting to hear your thought. So we were at that like standoff point. We're like, are you gonna go left?
It's something that like even adults. Like, again, granted, this is from someone who, like someone that an elected official brought this to attention and said, "This is what we need to talk about." And then people are like, yeah, no, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, no, I'm good for it. Well, yeah, well, sure, let's do it. And so it's like that's what we're talking about, Gal. Like this is what we're talking about. And so something like that, to that level of like, oh, I mean, oil prices and people bringing in, talking about taxing Native American nations more, but like, yeah, that's Bigfoot. Like that's the thing. But it's also another thing, that tourism trap of people are talking about it, so then their curiosity kicks in, and so then they have to show up and be like, I gotta go come out and see Bigfoot. Now I am kind of waiting for it being that thing that Shark Week did like several years ago when they're like, oh, Michael Phelps is gonna race a shark, and then it was like some CGI thing. So
that was so lame.
Yeah. So it's like I don't think it'll be something like that, but I am, waiting to be disappointed of like, surprise, of something, that extent occurring. If it does, well, yeah, I told you. But I mean, if not, like, yes. So what, like they're doing some sort of Bigfoot hunt, like this is what we needed.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, there's currently other things to worry about right now.
Yeah.
What? Possibly.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else shares my fascination with the strange culture that is the Bigfoot phenomenon, right?
No.
And so, like, I just, it's one of those like guilty pleasure things that I indulge in every once in a while. Is like watch the shows because there's always shows about it, right? I try to stay off the internet part about it because that's like scary place to live, right? Like, it's weird. But like, I don't know. I think because like scientifically, let's be real, this is the most improbable thing ever, right? Like what? Yes. Like, okay, so like for comparison, today I read that a new species of chameleon was discovered in Madagascar. Sucker is like 1.5 inches long.
Aww.
Max. So do I buy that you've never seen that before? Yes. Absolutely. Do I buy that there's absolutely no evidence ever of an 8-foot tall ape in the forest? No. That's ridiculous. Come on, what are you talking about?
All that.
Well, I think that's the part that's fascinating. Is it speaks to this like desire for that unknown, like that mysterious thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's kind of the part that's fascinating to me is that people so desire to like have that mystery, right? Like the mystery to latch onto. And I think it's slightly exacerbated by like you said, like, you know, the Google age where there's, you know, there's not a lot of mystery around. You know, like, oh, what's this mean? I just find out right now. I'm just Google that sucker. Oh, now I know. So I think part of its prevalence is that it is, you know, presented as this mystery, and like people like to have that mystery. I think it's speaks to them on some level that they require that. You know what I mean? That's what I think. I don't know.
And like I had a well, he wasn't my college professor, but he was an college professor who actually like minored in cryptozoology. And I was like,
wait, first of all, I thought that was the main thing. Like I didn't.
No, like people like that is the thing people study. Like,
well, yeah, but I thought it was a thing people study and said like just like, yep, I studied it, which is like them reading Reddit and like old weird internet forums. Like I didn't know. I know it was like an official.
So, yeah, and so like I don't know to like what extent his quote unquote like minor was. But yeah, I just remember I was more cornered than anything. He's like, no, dude, like I gotta like I studied this, like, something that I have. And I'm like, oh, okay. Wow, that's crazy, sir. Thank you for this. I appreciate it. But I just remember, you know, going through that of, oh, this guy's here. But yeah, it's like, and I don't know. Oklahoma's just it's fascinating because it's like it's also one of those things like, oh, that's so weird. Wait a second, it's right down the road from me. Whoa. That part is also kind of unique experience of like, oh, this can't be real. Like, is it? Because you don't live that far from it. Wow.
So you could go find out yourself, right? That's
yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. Of like, it's in our own backyard.
True. What I really want right now is the biologist's thought on Bigfoot. Collin, I need you to weigh in here. I want to know your opinion. This is gonna be good.
I don't know about that. I just say like all the crypto stuff. I think there are definitely. What's unfortunate is that some of the crypto creatures get lumped into creatures that were actually real. So like the Thylacine, like that one. Is that right? Is that the right word? Did I just throw that out of my brain? What am I called?
Yeah.
Coelacanth?
Coelacanth?
Coelacanth. Yeah, coelacanth. Sorry.
Yeah, you sound like you combined xylene and like xylophone. I don't really know what you said. Anyway,
no. What's the one? What's the
coelacanth? A fish, right?
Yeah. So the coelacanth is the one. I don't know. Where's my brain? No. What's the Australian one called? The that has a. Okay, my brain's gonna catch this one in just a second. So like the coelacanth,
okay.
Like it was relegated to cryptozoology, but it's like that's really not what.
That's not, it's not fair. That's not the right spot for it.
It's not
right?
fair because it doesn't belong there. Bigfoot. That's like I get frustrated when they get lumped in the same thing like that, and then just knowing like that our habitats, our ecosystems have only very recently been able to support bears. Right, like have been decimated. And I know they'll say, well, but like there are some remote places. And yeah, I know there are some remote places. They're not that remote, especially anymore.
Oh, that fishy. Okay.
Right. And
yeah, especially not in eastern Arkansas, right? Like it sounds I know that sounds exotic, right? If you are one of our European or Indian listeners, you're like, where is eastern Arkansas? First of all, it's not really as cool as it sounds, right? Let me tell you that right now. Like the Boston Mountains are like kind of remote, but something that like if you just think about like the habitat necessary to sustain a gorilla population.
Yes.
Right? Like they found gorillas pretty like that's an interesting story if you don't know about the discovery of gorillas because nobody believed that dude either.
Right.
But he went and was like, look, there it is right there. And then they went, oh, okay.
Literally. Right there.
That habitable zone is pretty large.
Yes.
Even for a small troop of gorillas. And yeah, that's
right. And that's where I come back to of like you got to be honest here of just how unrealistic, not just whether an organism could or could not exist, but whether it could function and survive in a given ecosystem, right? Like you can't think of it outside of that, right? Sure, could we think of a world or a ecosystem that this animal could exist? Sure, but in the real world, with the limitations on this, especially when you look at analogs like gorillas, like these other large animals, like they have a presence that is made known to support the organism, right? Like it just that's where I come to of just like,
yes,
could the system support this? Could it find enough food? Could it forage? Could it find mates? Let's just get to that point. Like
that's a big important point,
right? Right? Like above and beyond anything else, like you have to come up with each one of those cornerstones of what makes the organism able to survive and thrive and go, do you meet all of these? If you don't, it's not going to exist. Like that's where
yes, these are very good points. I like.
Okay.
Aaron, do you have thoughts on Bigfoot?
So it's like I remember watching, was it on the History Channel or Discovery Channel, like Monster Hunters? Like,
oh yeah.
So I remember watching two parts of that. The first part, or like a part of it being like, oh, here's Gustav, the gigantic, not saltwater crocodile, Nile crocodile or something in Africa, or wherever he is. Like I'll hear like, there's giant crocodiles, like this is real. I'm like, oh yes, I see that. Oh, look at that. And then they would have those stories of like the Jersey Devil, which again freaked me out when I was younger. And I didn't like going outside at night because I remember being like, what a bird. Yeah, like my two extreme, my two levels of what creature is that? Is that a bat or is that a Jersey Devil? Like what am I working with?
It's very extreme.
People are like, no, dude, it's a crow. I'm like, I mean, Jersey Devil is
so bat? Like what?
So it's like for me, like especially when I was younger, um, good old Nessie in Loch Ness. Um, Again, that same exact show. Whenever I watched it, and it's like, no, this could very much be a Greenland shark. Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
the Greenland shark. That's the your brain like exploding. And so like seeing the progression of like how popular or how like crazed people were. Crazed is probably not the right word. Of people like, oh, this, I studied this thing for years. And this is something that I followed. And like, oh, well, crazy. Like, what's your degree in? I'm like, I didn't go to college because I was too focused on
accounting.
This creature. And you're like, what do you like? So, like things like that, and just seeing like how crazy it's gotten over the years. And would it be cool if there was something? Yeah, but also how incredibly terrifying if like a scientist showed up and was like, "No, dude, like this is real," and then having the two different kind of mindsets, like, "Oh, we must preserve this," or people like, "No, I gotta hunt this," and I got to mount it on my wall, and then having the whole big hoopla and hearing all that, nothing in the news for ever. Um, so what I think would be cool, absolutely, it would still be terrifying, but like kind of what we talked about several podcasts ago of like the Tasmanian tiger. If people are like, no, dude, it's like back, like it's like it's look, there it is, like things like that of like people wanting to reintroduce it. Those scientists are like, dude, we can bring back woolly mammoths. Like, who is that? Hold on, time out for a second.
Yeah, like I saw Jurassic Park. I know how this ends. Don't do that.
Yeah. But there is a group of scientists that were trying to bring back some ancient, like cow. I don't remember what it was called.
Oh, the aurochs. Those were called Nazis. They tried to do that.
So okay, don't listen to me.
I think there was another group. They tried to do it first. They did it in a weird, wrong way. But and
so they're like, dude, we can bring back these, stuff. And so like things like that, like in a safe way that like, if it was meant to bring back some sort of, population of something in a safe way, then like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. Like, oh yeah, no, we can definitely see that happening. But I mean, as the young child in me, I would have to say like, could it? What Collin was talking about, like, could it support a population? Would it be good if it supported population?
Yeah,
I don't know. There's a lot of emotions whirling at the moment of is this something that I want? And if I do have it, will I be happy? No. So that is where Aaron stands on the point.
There you go. I like it. So what do you think is driving the people that, like, what are they seeing that make them believe so heartily in this? What are your thoughts? And I have a very long, strange theory to spin to you after this. I want your take on it.
Okay. So in stuff that I've read about in some of the more not paleo, that's not the right word, but kind of more older Native Americans, ancient Native Americans of either them just not like, or just people back then. Because if you look at like people's descriptions on certain words or on certain creatures, and then people are like, well, we don't have pictures to take of this. Like, let me just draw it. And then having people like take or like draw the picture of it, and then being like, whoa, is this what you saw? And you're like, I don't know. And then having that circulate is also kind of a fascinating thing of like, this is what one dude said about this one creature that one time. And is this right? We don't know. Let's see what happens. And I think over time, people see things that they kind of want to believe. That whole, well, no, I saw this, like this was real. And then having them, portray that level of whatever. I don't know really. either it'd be to explain something, or for people to that need to explain something. I have no idea. I can't, per se, of what people wanted to do back then.
All right, Collin.
And I probably do have a longer answer. Of like, I don't. I'll see what the table says.
I mean,
that's all right. Okay.
So, like, I think, Aaron, you hit on it towards the end there. There is the physical aspect of what are they seeing, and then there's the psychological aspect of why do they want to be seeing it. And I really,
yes.
Right. So I think there is this drive, a need to not be alone in the world, and to have something else out there to have a connection with. That deep in the human psyche, there is this idea or need for always something else. And especially for things that are like us, like we're really drawn to that. And that gets into a little bit about our brains are really good at pattern matching. Kind of like the snap to grid problem of anything that's even close to something. Like that's why our brains are really bad at being random or picking or writing down random numbers in sequence.
Oh yeah,
right. We're pattern driven, and especially when things are patterns around us and what it means to be human. Babies instantly connect with the human face immediately, right? That's the first thing they look, and they constantly are fixated on that, and that sticks with us throughout our entire life. So because we have this brain, because we have this need to be connected as to something larger and to find other things like us, the rustling of a deer and the glimpse of something brown walking behind a tree immediately throws you into this something more than what is there. And then you start, right? Then there are just these, quote, logical leaps, or not even leaps, these logical steps, again, quote unquote, logical steps that you take to get you to the point where you think something's there when it's not. But that gets to, why do sounds in a house sound like the axe murderer coming to get you? Why do right? but again, because our brain is trying to make these logical connections to make sense of the world, and you have all of these things that drive and combine in it, that I think result in this perception of like, no, I genuinely saw this. And it's like, yeah, no, I really think you saw that. Yeah, like, absolutely. That's what you think. And you can't really change people's mind at that point. And that's why they're so passionate about it, because there's this underlying need, underlying draw that's moving them in this way.
I like it. Very interesting.
Anyway,
so no, I like that. And I'm gonna piggyback off of some of that here just a minute. I was trying to see if I can find the name of this place, but I don't remember currently. So I think that is kind of it, right? That there is that like psychological connection to this kind of stuff. But I think that it is way. So here's the theory that I've sort of stumbled upon, that I find fascinating, and that I'm going to go with for the purposes of this discussion. Okay. This, like Aaron brought up part of it. The whole Bigfoot thing is not like a new situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a new story. This wasn't like invented like yesterday, right? So the thing that fascinates me is like, where did it come from? Why is it happening? What does this mean, right? So, I was talking to a guy in New Zealand. Okay, he was a Maori guy. I was at this, like, I found the name. It's called Tipuia. It's a school for native Maori people to go and learn about their cultural history. It's really sweet, right? It's really amazing. People from all over the islands go there and they learn about the cultural history, and then they take that knowledge back to their villages and their towns, wherever they live, and kind of share it with everybody, right? It's super rad. We definitely need that in the United States. It's like so bad for some of the tribal stuff. I think that'd be the coolest thing ever. But you can go there. So he was telling me about kind of like traditional Maori beliefs and stuff. And the whole Maori tradition was originally oral, right? Not writing. It survived orally for a very long time. Now, as Western school of thought tells us, oral tradition is rubbish, right? Written documentation is the only reliable source, right? That's kind of what we think. That comes to us from like the Enlightenment era, right? Written documentation is the only trusted source, right?
Sure.
Okay. He was explaining to me a native perspective on oral tradition. And he was telling, I might get this wrong. So anybody out there, I apologize if I get this backwards. Please let me know. But he said there's two parts. There is the story. It's told in a story form to help remember it. And then there is a context that is given secondly. Right? So you have to know the story part, because a lot of these are like, like mythological kind of story things, but there is also a contextual element that they then tell you. The other part is just to help remember it and then to come here. So I'm thinking that some of the initial thought from a lot of this stuff and why it's so pervasive and widespread is that at some point in the past, it was real, right? But I'm not talking like 100 years ago, I'm talking like thousands of years ago, like possibly up to, right? If we think about Aboriginal Australian culture, they have a traditional culture a stable culture that stretches back at least 10,000 years, uninterrupted oral tradition and history. Mm-hmm. So we could be talking about a very expansive amount of time, a time that Western philosophy tells us to not trust oral tradition. Sure. But it is reasonable that a story could last that long, but that the contextual part is gone.
Yeah.
And all we have left is the story. So you're left with this concept that I find interesting called a folk memory, where sort of culturally we remember the thing, but we don't know why or why it was important. Right? So maybe there was something like that. It could have been, like you're talking about another species of human, because, not so long in the distant past, there was not just Homo sapien, right? There was dozens of other related hominids. It could be from any number of them. Maybe one of them was a threat. Maybe, this kind of thing. And that story tradition got lost, right? Or the story part stayed, but the contextual element of the story disappeared over time. Everybody forgot about that part. And the only part that was left was the story. So this thing that maybe used to be a threat and was a real thing and was something that we need to know about, the thing stopped existing, but the story didn't. And then that's kind of where this comes from. So that like deep psychological desire is, you're connected to it somehow. It rings just true enough, because at some point it was, but it isn't any longer. And that's where some of that connection comes in, I think, about why people are so obsessed with it, why it's so interesting, right? Like Collin said, any flash of movement in the woods, it's Bigfoot, right? Even though I find it interesting that the Bigfoot range and the bear range seem to overlap very nicely. Weird. I especially like there's no way a black bear or a brown bear. Yeah, black bear is that tall. Yes, because all forest ground is flat and even and not undulating even a little bit. Anyway,
Yeah.
There's that. So like that's instantly, like almost without even ever really learning about it, like about Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a cultural thing. It's just around. Like Aaron was talking about. It's just kind of in that certain area. It's everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's just culturally prevalent. So little children in that area, they don't ever have to learn about it. They just know it's there. Right? But there's no context for any of it. It's just, yep, it's there. And so you keep steering away from any context that there used to be. And the divide is greater. And so now you only have a story and you only have this like, shadow in the mist in the forest of what used to be or what could be, but no longer is. That's my thought. It's a little crazy, but like, I kind of like it. It kind of wraps it up nicely for me.
Yeah.
Right. Sort of ties it up a little bit. It just sort of adds some stuff to, at least in my mind, it kind of like satisfies the, oh, well, yeah. It kind of ties together all the stuff Aaron was talking about and all the stuff that you were talking about, Colin, like, bro, where does it live? How? No, come on. Yeah. Like, show me a primate that's quiet. Come on. No, not impossible. Like,
that's why they have the recorders out there. You can hear their calls nighttime.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was my thought. That's kind of my thought and where I'm at currently. I kind of like the folk memory aspect of this, like something that once was true, but isn't any longer. And I think it was true a lot longer ago than generally people are willing to think about possible a story surviving that long. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think especially because of the cultures who have come before us, we're actually much better at passing down stories orally than we are, because that was what they were entirely based on. And they were a lot closer, not just geographically, but personally and as community wise. So those stories were shared and were extremely strong culturally amongst them, because that was how you survived, was through storytelling. So it would make sense that they're these folk memories or cultural memories from bygone eras that are just pervasive because they've persisted through time.
Yeah, I think it's a cool idea. I don't know. I latched onto that when I kind of started thinking. I was like, whoa, I like that. Also, it kind of makes you wonder, like, what else do we do that's like that? Let's take that as true. Let's just scientifically, let's pretend that's a fact. What else do we do that with and not even know?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's another interesting thought experiment. It's like, what else are we actually more connected to from like deep human history than we even realize? Because it's something that we culturally like take for granted and you don't like actually learn it. It's just sort of around. Like, what else could possibly be in a similar vein? Because that's like a fantastical thing. Surely there is something much more mundane
and meaningful.
And like, that you don't think of as like really outsider and strange.
Yeah.
Like, is there possibly other aspects of our cultural being that the same thing has happened?
Right.
I think that's a kind of bizarre thing to think about too. I don't know.
No, and I think listeners should write in.
Definitely.
Feedback at obrotherpodcast.com.
Yeah, exactly.
There'll be an email somewhere.
An email,
in our contact form. And let us know your thoughts. Because who knows? I love it. Okay. Very good.
Right.
I don't have anything else. So, you guys.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I love it.
All
to wrap around into the parking lot here. I was trying to think of the word thylacine, and it came out xylithine.
Got it.
There was a Z there because I was also merging it with coelacanth, and coelacanth and thylacine came out xylithine. So
I do love the thylacine.
Mystery solved. We solved at least one thing tonight.
Yes.
Of my own doing. As usual. So
it's fine. Everything's fine.
Guys, have a good rest of your evening.
You too.
Love you.
as well.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.